All right, you guys, happy Monday. Obviously, the Super Bowl was last night. Unsurprisingly, Taylor Swift did not attend with Blake Lively, but she did get booed. And that was a surprise. That has got to signify a new era for her. I totally blame Ryan Reynolds. I'm going to tell you why. Also, speaking of the Deadpool devil, you are not going to believe this, but his feelings surrounding the creation of the Mr. Nicepool character, aka Justin Baldoni, were captured and recorded in a book. He spoke about why he created this character, and it's extremely dark. It is truly dark to read this. You're not going to believe it. All right, so leading up to the Super Bowl, my producer had this idea that Taylor Swift might attend with Blake Lively. He was like, that's going to be when we can really see. And I was like, there's a 0% chance. There's not even a negative 1% chance that Taylor Swift is showing up with Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. That is, just put it out of your mind, because she has proven time and time again, no matter what you think about her, whether you love her, whether you hate her, she cares deeply about what the public thinks. That is just a fact, whether you think that's a good thing, that we can kind of manipulate who she's friends with. There have been plenty of examples of that, right? First and foremost, Matt Healy. Everyone forgot about Matt Healy. She was like really deep into that for a couple of weeks or a month or whatever until her fans said no. And she cared so much about that. He was caught on a podcast saying something about Ice Spice that she then became friends with Ice Spice, because she was like, I cannot have this, and she left Matt Healy. Then, of course, notoriously, the Kanye West debacle over the lyric. They were, quote unquote, best friends. They had a phone call discussing the lyric. The public heard the lyric, freaked out, didn't like the lyric. Taylor Swift suddenly was like not okay with any part, or she didn't mention the phone call, but we know it wasn't good for her brand anymore, and she moved on. And now we have Blake Lively, and they've been friends for 10 years. And I am telling you, I knew leading up to the Super Bowl, godmother or not a godmother, she will throw the god babies out with the bathwater. That's just a fact, okay? Now, I thought she was going to attend with Kansas City wags, the wives and the girlfriend, and maybe Jason Kelsey's wife, but she didn't do that. She wound up attending again with Ice Spice, who she went to the Super Bowl with last year. The Haim sisters, I still have no idea who they are, but she hangs out with them a lot. I'm aging out. I don't need to know who everybody is in culture. I just know that she is friends with them. And that was her entry into the arena. But the big news that no one expected was that she got booed. Taylor Swift got booed. I don't think I have ever seen a clip anywhere ever since the dawn of her career of her getting booed. So let's watch that. Okay, first off, shout out to Ice Spice. I like this look on her a lot better than the look that she had last year. She looks a lot better. Never want to be a hater. Secondly, you can see she's quite startled by this. A lot of people enjoyed it. I think no matter what, getting booed in a stadium, it just doesn't feel good. You know, a little piece of me does feel very bad because it's super embarrassing. Like I said, no matter how famous or how rich you are or how secure you are, getting booed like that in a stadium it's embarrassing. It just is. And I think it's leading to a lot of questions rather than people debating or being like, I'm pro Taylor or anti Taylor. It's a cultural moment that should be discussed, which is why was Taylor Swift booed? She's coming off of her Eras tour. She is arguably one of the top 5 most famous people in the world. And some people rushed and said, oh, that's just the nature of football. No, let's not take that excuse. It's not because it's football. Okay. She was at the Super Bowl last year. She was in the middle of her Eras tour when she was at the Super Bowl last year, and she did not get booed. She also has been on the sidelines following the Kansas City Chiefs around. And obviously the NFL has spotlighted her all throughout the season, and she has not been booed. Some people say, well, it's because of politics. Well, that doesn't make sense either, because Donald Trump was there, okay? And he received a roarous applause, despite the fact that people have strong feelings against him. And, you know, of course, everywhere he goes, there's going to be a chance that some people don't like him. And so I don't accept any of those excuses. And I think something else is happening. And I think what could be happening is that the world is starting to register some Taylor Swift fatigue. Okay. And part of this absolutely is because of what is going on with Justin Baldoni and her. She's been in the press a lot regarding this unbelievable circumstance of bullying. And even though we can't say that Taylor Swift is guilty, right? And she's doing everything to basically signal to the media, I will never speak to Blake Lively again. Please do not drag me into this lawsuit. I do think that what's happening is there's something that's starting to emerge about Taylor Swift, and I would call it almost the brand versus the person. And I'm super keen to hear the Swifties on this, because even, like I said, the Swifties really want to get to the bottom of this Justin Baldoni case and understand what was Taylor Swift's involvement. They're not hot-headed right now. They're not like, well, Blake just used her. And in fact, people aren't liking the excuse that Taylor Swift is once again saying that she's been used, right? And I think people are asking questions like, how much of the brand of Taylor Swift, this nice girl who helps out people, is real? Another obvious question is, why was she so close with Blake Lively and Ryan? Because whether we know how much she contributed to this case, or whether we get answers to how much she contributed to this, we can all ask a realistic question, which is, okay, why were you friends with these monsters? Right? We all agree that Ryan Reynolds is a monster, and you're going to think even worse of him when I show you this, something that he wrote, or he was recorded as saying, rather, in this book about Justin Baldoni. Nice pool, but you are the company you keep. Okay, you are aware of Blake Lively's personality. You were aware of Ryan Reynolds' personality. There's a reason why the first time Ryan Reynolds even texts with Justin Baldoni, he drops your name. You've been all around speaking about how close you are with them, how much you love them, how much you adore them. You said yes when they asked you to be the godmother. I can't accept that you didn't know this is how they behaved. I won't accept that. I think that's an element of this. And then it leads you down, I think, a path where you go, okay, well, has every ex really been so terrible to Taylor Swift? Was Calvin Harris lying when he said that she operates behind the scenes? I'm summarizing, but he was basically like, I know your moves. You use the media to go after people. Remember that moment where Icarus almost flew too close to the sun with Taylor Swift, and Calvin Harris said some stuff, but at that moment, the world wasn't ready to hear that, and he got attacked for saying that. Like, oh my gosh, how could he do this? And he was basically saying she's playing a media game. Are people starting to go back and revisit that? Is she really always just being used and being treated terribly? Or should we accept some of the lyrics in her songs when she tells us that she's the author of a lot of that she controls things behind the scenes? Is that just being art? Is she just using art and imagining herself as that person? Or is Taylor Swift a media empire that is able to get out a narrative regarding various topics, and those narratives are sometimes not always in line with the truth? Are people getting Taylor Swift fatigue, I would say, is the question, okay? And my producer getting into this, the presentation of her versus the reality of who she might be, my producer pointed out something that is incredibly interesting that we should have picked up on and discussed before, okay? Back in 2016, notoriously, Kesha accused Dr. Luke of sexual abuse. And there was this image of her, which was plastered everywhere. It was just like at the beginning of the Me Too movement, of her in the back of a courtroom crying when a judge decided that she was not able to simply, leave her contract with Sony. And I think Dr. Luke owned 6 albums. She hadn't delivered them, and she was crying. And just that picture, without people really knowing the facts of the case, got people to react. And suddenly all of these celebrities started donating to her legal fees. And one of those celebrities, by the way, was Taylor Swift. She instantly jumped in 2016 and donated $250,000. And she had her team make a public statement. A representative for her said, quote, in a show of support, Taylor Swift has donated $250,000 to Kesha to help with any of her financial needs during this trying time. Okay, fine. And I want to also be clear, that's not the first time that she did that. Way back in 2013, and I, by the way, to this day will say I believe this happened to Taylor Swift, like she was telling the truth 100%. Remember, you had that weird, creepy radio guy who grabbed her butt. And you could see it here. And there's just no way she took this guy to court for 4 years because it didn't happen. She took a stance and was like, this is unacceptable, kept him in court for 4 years. In 2017, she wins the court case for $1 because she just wanted to send a message about how what he did was not okay. Very good. And then she decided to donate on top of that in 2017 to assault victims, right? Here is the headline in Reuters: Taylor Swift donates to assault victims group after groping win. Okay, so very happy to hear that. Then that instantly just makes us go, okay, well, wait a second. If all of that is how she reacts to sexual assault, do you mean to tell me that she then has a best friend of 10 years, okay? 10 years her and Blake Lively have been friends. And her best friend has selected Taylor Swift to be the godmother of her children, okay? They're all over the place together. They're being photographed. They're sharing each other's secrets. They're telling each other everything. They're basically branding each other together, going through relationships, a decade of friendships. Her and Ryan Reynolds, I think she said like Ryan Reynolds was like a brother to her or whatever it was that we covered when she was promoting Deadpool for him. And now we have December of 2024, and her best friend comes out and says, it happened to me too. You know, I was sexually harassed by Justin Baldoni. It's terrible. You're going to tell me these girls were not speaking about this all year, knowing what we know now, knowing that Blake has come out and said Taylor was with her every step of the way. She was with you every step of the way in the making of this movie, which means that you were speaking to her throughout this movie, talking to her about this horrific incident that happened to you. You're so close. And yet you drop this lawsuit and Taylor Swift elects to remain silent. You guys buying that? Are you guys buying that Taylor Swift would choose to remain silent if she thought or knew that the allegations that were being made against Justin Baldoni are true? No, you're not buying that. I'm not buying that. And here's what I want to say to you about that, because what it signals to me is that Brian Friedman needs to get this girl on the stand yesterday. I am telling you, he needs to depose Taylor Swift because she knows something. What it signals to me is that she maybe knew that Blake and Ryan were orchestrating a plan in order to take over this movie. Okay. I like I said, everything about what had happened as I was reading through this lawsuit just it reminded me of Taylor Swift in terms of the Deadpool stuff, like dropping an album, dropping all of these Easter eggs, saying all of these things on Instagram. It felt to me like a Taylor Swift album. And then we found out that she was close, like she was involved in all of this stuff. And I'm just going, what's going on? And it is actually the loudest silence in all of this is that Taylor Swift did not make a statement when that was filed. And she for sure would have known, given the nature of their relationship, that it was going to be filed. So what gives? What gives? Ironically, in the Dr. Luke situation, he may have been a guy before his time, but his defense was this sexual abuse did not happen. Rather, Kesha is making these allegations because she wants to change her contract. I'm saying that's just a little bit of irony here, okay? Anyways, moving on from that, Ryan Reynolds, if you have not seen him, he's been spotted out in public a few times in New York, also at an event. He now looks exceedingly thin. He's lost a lot of weight, showing that he is stressed. Again, I do not wish bad for him and Blake. I don't wish bad on anybody. I just want, I'm almost like asympathetic. I feel nothing for them. I have no sympathy for them. And I just want them to get what they have coming to them, which is for people to recognize who these people are. Okay. And so in an amazingly psychotic find, someone that I used to work with texted me this weekend, and we just like kind of get deep in the trenches together on like research stuff the whole time. We'll just get like obsessive about things. And she randomly texted me and she informs me that Ryan Reynolds actually has a book that is published. It's not, like, he didn't write the book, but essentially, and this is some Comic-Con stuff, guys, like literally, like if you're deep into Marvel Universe or DC Universe, you may know about these things. I definitely did not know about these things, but they create these books essentially about all of the movies. And they're sort of these art books. This one's called Marvel Studios, Deadpool and Wolverine, the art of the movie. I know there's going to be someone watching this that's like very into the comic universe stuff. And they're going to be like, Candace, you're describing this wrong. I'm doing my best. Okay. Essentially what that is, it's a gallery of never before seen artwork, which is the description, and exclusive lithographs and in-depth interviews with the creative team. So these are created by going to the team, speaking to the characters, and asking them, people that have made this movie, essentially the original artwork, the lithograph, whatever, and then saying like, tell me how and why you created this character. And so they sit down with these characters and the people that created them, and they ask them questions. And I am scared. I am so scared. So I'm going to read you directly what Ryan had to say when they sat down with him to discuss Nice Pool. Okay, I'm going to show you this, and then I'll give you the exact quotation. You can pull this up. This is from the book. I ordered it. This cost me $80. I spent $80 on this so that you don't have to. It doesn't arrive until tonight, but I was able. She was able to. She found it actually on like a super niche YouTube page of somebody who just goes through these like Marvel art books or whatever. And she was able to screen grab it. And then I ordered it, but it doesn't arrive until 10 p.m. tonight. Darn you, Amazon. I needed it for the show by today, but it's okay. Anyways, it says, In one respect, Nicepool is everything Deadpool wishes he was, Reynolds says. You know, easy, breezy, gorgeous, hair, normal face, gold-plated 50 caliber Desert Eagle pistols, and this beautiful suit. But the thing that Deadpool is most covetous of is, of course, Dogpool. Okay, just pausing there. Okay, so he is saying, now that we understand what this character was created for, is that as Ryan Reynolds, actually, who I want to be is Justin Baldoni, right? He's got this presentation. He's easy. He's breezy. We have him in this beautiful suit. But the one thing that Deadpool is the most coveted of is, of course, Dogpool. We know that Dogpool is Blake Lively. Okay, like this is so creepy. So creepy. Okay, it goes on. So Nicepool initially just existed to serve the purpose of introducing Dogpool, but then it evolved and it grew. The idea appealed of creating this character based on guys you find in the zeitgeist right now who are faux nice. They may present as very progressive and enlightened. Nicepool himself identifies as a feminist, but the truth is very different. They're talking about themselves as these incredible allies, but underneath that, there's something a little false and probably awful, Reynolds says. I liked that this guy was kind of paving over all of this shit headery, pardon my language, with his esoteric hot yoga, chakra balancing nonsense and his little top knot and all that stuff. So we plant this seed early that he's a little fake spiritual, but he also may be the kind of piece of shit. It just allows us to not feel too bad about taking his life brutally. End quote. I'm like, what is going on? Like, we created this character so that I could kill him. We created this character and we were planting the seeds early that you shouldn't like this character so at the end we could overkill him. We showed you, like, I think I showed you on my Instagram was you couldn't show you like how many times he shot and killed Nicepool. And it's funny because my editor said to me when I watched the movie, it was weird because Nicepool seemed nice. And then there was this just scene of him just killing him. And there's no way to look at this other than to recognize that Ryan was living out his fantasy of killing Justin Baldoni via the movie Deadpool. And there is like no way to normalize that or to excuse that. He was living out a fantasy of killing Justin Baldoni. Like that's the reality, okay? He wrote about this down to like his hair somehow Justin Baldoni was driving him insane. He talks about everything Justin Baldoni speaks about on his Instagram. I told you when I crawled through it. I mean, there's just no question that this character that he created late in the day, which we went through the timeline, he added, like tacked all of these scenes on late in the day when principal filming for photography pardon was already over. And then he's like, let's get the gang back together so I can fantasize about murdering Justin Baldoni. Very, very strange. Makes me uncomfortable. Kind of reminds me of like, for people that were watching Deadpool, it's kind of like when I was 13 and you're listening to Eminem and you're like, yeah, Slim Shady, it's amazing. He's going to kill Kim. He's going to kill Kim. He's going to kill Kim. And then you get older and you're like, is Kim okay? Can somebody check on Kim? He's bringing out blowout dolls and fantasizing about killing his ex. Like, I don't know, maybe that makes you bop your head when you're 13. But when you get older, you're like, I don't think Slim Shady's got it all going on upstairs. This is not okay. We can't just call it artwork while we fantasize about murdering people. And I'm very uncomfortable by it. By the way, not to make you even angrier, but obviously with the whole hair and making Nicepool have long hair, that's been like a major feature, and that's why he brings it up in this book. And I'm getting the book because there could be more gems in there. So that's just the first thing that we have. I want to go through Dogpool. I want to go through everything. But you should know that Justin Baldoni's like phase of having really long hair, which deeply upsets Ryan on some sort of a spiritual level, was not something that he grew out in an effort to reinforce a stereotype. Like, yes, my cousin does like a little bit of kombucha. I actually don't know if he does. I feel like he does. And I do think that he is a stereotype in many of those ways. But his hair, he actually grew out to donate to children with cancer. He documented that. He was growing it out because he wanted children with cancer. You have to get it to a certain length if you do that. And then he chopped it off in April of 2023, right before they began, or the same month they began principal photography on It Ends With Us. And his hair had obviously gotten long enough. So here is the video of him explaining to his kids that this is going to children who have cancer, just in case you needed more of an excuse to really strongly dislike Ryan Reynolds.
So the reason you're cutting it like that, babe, is because Daddy's going to donate his hair to somebody who can't grow their hair. Like maybe they got cancer, like Uncle Zach, or they lost their hair. So he's going to give all this hair to somebody. That's why you got to cut it perfectly, right there. You ready? Okay. Here we go.
Right.
1, 2.
So I even.
Yeah! Someone's going to be so happy to have his hair.
Daddy, it's really
Sweet.
I love your heart.
No, I'm not crying because I'm losing my hair. I'm crying because it's just going to grow to something.
So there you have it. So I have this theory because what Ryan does is so by the book narcissistic abuse. It's not that it's unusual for Deadpool to have a nice pool. The character existed. He then turned the nice pool character into Justin Baldoni and turned it into basically however he felt his insecurities about Dogpool being Blake Lively. That was made very clear once you were able to kind of go through his text messages and get a sense of the situation, right? And I've realized that his issue is control. We've talked about this. And one thing that will really drive somebody who exhibits this sort of behavior crazy is feeling like control has been removed from you. And so I had said to you guys last week that there's an element of this that I'm convinced has to do with Scarlett Johansson, right? Call me crazy, but I got to run this by you, okay? I believe that to Ryan Reynolds, she is the one that got away. I am sorry. She is glowing. She is beautiful. I think objectively, we could just say like she's had a way stronger career than Blake Lively. She's always been an A-list actress, and she saw the signs early and got out of that relationship and never really spoke about things, but came very close to saying that Ryan Reynolds was a bit controlling. And I mentioned to you guys how even his friendship with Hugh Jackman is based off of getting back at Scarlett Johansson because she starred in a movie with him, a huge blockbuster success. And at some point in their marriage, Hugh Jackman said something to Ryan Reynolds, like he was like a little punk, like better be good to my little sister kind of a thing. And Ryan, it never left Ryan, and he was angry about Hugh Jackman. And so he pretended that they had this like rivalry, but deep down Ryan was serious. But then it developed into a bromance and sort of this way to say, I don't know what to Blake Lively, like, I'm collecting this person in your life. And I just found it to be very strange that we then learn that Ryan Reynolds is going through this exhaustive effort to get Wayfarer Studios blackballed from Hollywood at the same time that it is like announced, we learned this obviously, that Scarlett Johansson is having her directorial debut in the Eleanor film. I'm forgetting the name of it. It's like Eleanor. I don't know why. Eleanor the Great. And this was going to be the first time. And so she was working with Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios in her directorial debut. And all of a sudden he's like fighting for Blake Lively to like become the director of Justin Baldoni's movie. There's something about that feels competitive to me. So then I was thinking about this, okay? And another thing that struck me was it made me go back to Brandon Sklenar, that Brandon Sklenar gave an interview where he said like he didn't understand essentially why Blake and Ryan were being so nice to him, okay? And I was like, what was his involvement? I think genuinely an element of this narcissistic abuse is that he love bombs people, and they don't realize that they're all a part of like Ryan's web of trying to get back at somebody else. Like I think they knew their end goal was to take over this movie, and so they loved bomb the young Lily Bloom, which was Isabel Ferrer. They love bombed Brandon Sklenar with like, oh, we're just gonna be the most amazing couple. We're gonna take you to these Wrexham games, and they love bombed Liz Plank. Oh, you would be perfect for my documentary that we're doing on soccer. I don't know why you would be perfect, but you would. You are exactly who we're looking for. So they find people in the orbit and they bring them in essentially with surrounding them with A-listers and, surrounding them with money or whatever it is that person wants. I think Brandon Sklenar at this time, interestingly, I'm not suggesting anything, but he did sign a deal with WME. Prior to, he was not with one of the big wigs. He wasn't with WME or CAA. And then all of a sudden he gets a deal with WME. And so listen to Brandon Sklenar on the red carpet when a reporter asks him during premiere night about how, Blake and Ryan have taken a liking to him. Take a listen.
I think the Reynolds family likes you a lot.
They've taken a liking for sure, and I'm very grateful for it because I don't think I could literally have anyone better in my corner, and they're just they continue to blow me away with how just real they are and how kind they are, and to be like in the spotlight the way they are, and to still if you know them, they value their family so much, and I think you could feel it in them as people and as performers, and it's just such a testament to how you can be and how you should strive to be, I think, honestly, truly, yeah.
Now that we know what they were doing behind the scenes, to hear him give this sort of raving review is quite strange. But again, their target is Justin Baldoni, so they have to be amazing to everybody else. So then I started looking at like who else was being love bombed during this time. We've got Liz Plank, we've got Brandon Sklenar, we've got Bloom, young Lily Bloom, Isabel Ferrer, and I realized that if you go through his like Instagram, Ryan Reynolds' Instagram, there's so much Channing Tatum. Out of nowhere, we got Channing Tatum everywhere. And somebody said that Channing Tatum played essentially a cameo as Gambit in the Deadpool movie. So I'm like, that's interesting. And it didn't just stop at like him playing a character in Deadpool, but he also then took him to Wrexham and included him into a commercial. Watch this, like we're going to give you 7 seconds of this Wrexham ad before we get hit by YouTube for stealing music. Take a listen.
All right, boys. Your bosses are not happy with your celebration dances. So, drink up. Try to keep up.
So he dances in this ad and whatever, again, weird crossover events. Like I know that they have both worked with Marvel, but like they didn't have this like bromance. This is also during the Justin Baldoni crazy time. So I started wondering, what's the connection here? What am I missing here about Channing Tatum? And it's got to be something about power. It's got to be about control. It's got to be about narcissistic abuse. And then this caught my eye, very interestingly, okay? Scarlett Johansson was co-starring as a love interest alongside Channing Tatum at this time as well. So she had a couple of things going for her. She's got tons going for her, but you know what I'm saying. She had her upcoming directorial debut, which was slated for 2023 for her to start filming in Eleanor the Great with Wayfarer Studios. They start targeting Wayfarer Studios, and he wants to make her director. She also was filming with Channing Tatum as his love interest in a movie called Fly Me to the Moon, okay? And all of a sudden, Channing Tatum is now being announced in 2024 after principal photography has already begun for Deadpool that Ryan is bringing him in as Gambit just for a cameo. And people thought, by the way, in the Marvel Universe world, this was amazing, an amazing act of kindness because for years, there's this whole long story about how Channing Tatum has wanted to play Gambit since he was a child. It was his lifelong dream. He came really close to it. And then like Marvel sold to Disney and they dropped him. So he wasn't going to be the lead of the movie. And then all of a sudden, here we go. Good guy Ryan Reynolds jumps up to the plate when he's spending time with his ex-wife and is like, I'm going to give you a cameo here. But I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I was like, maybe this really was just extraordinary timing. Maybe it wasn't even Ryan Reynolds who cast Channing Tatum in Deadpool and Wolverine. And it was some other executive. And it really was just this organic thing that happened and they became friends. But I was like, let me dig, because I feel like specifically he picked Channing Tatum and made this happen, made this cameo happen. And then I found it. Channing Tatum on Jimmy Fallon saying, yeah, thank you to this wonderful human being, Ryan Reynolds. Take a listen.
Did Ryan Reynolds get involved? Ryan, I've said this before. Look, this industry is a really interesting thing, and like I can honestly say that not one single person is just more of a class act and cares more than that man. Like he took Gambit out of truly like the grave. Like it was just nothing and nowhere, and he was like, no man, I want this for you. I want this in the movie, and like I want to see it, and he made it happen, and I'll forever be grateful.
It's just incredible. It was him. I want this for you, Brandon Sklenar. I want this for you, Channing Tatum. I want this for you, Isabel Ferrer. Like, no, it is about Ryan, and he's always trying to get back at someone else. And in that case, I am telling you, it was not about you, Channing Tatum. I am sorry. It was about Scarlett Johansson. He was squeezing her because he has never seen himself as successful as her, and she's the one that walked away. I think she saw the signs early that he's a narcissistic abuser. So anyways, all of that's insane. I had to give you guys an update on that. I know I just like oscillate between becoming Brigitte. I'm like in France, and then I'm suddenly like, I got to cover this story because it just keeps getting more and more insane. But that is the update that we have for you.